The flashing red and blue lights sliced through our calm suburban afternoon, like a thunderclap in a quiet church. On my phone's security feed, I watched two police officers burst through the main gate of Maplewood Creek Estates, their faces tight with purpose. And right there on my doorstep stood Brenda Maxwell, our self-proclaimed community monarch and HOA president, waving a shiny key in the air like it was her personal scepter. Her face was crimson, twisted with fury as she screamed at my locked door. She was completely unaware that my 12-year-old son, Ethan, was inside, quietly recording every single moment on his phone. What Brenda didn't realize was that in just a few minutes, she'd be the one answering questions, not asking them. This is the story of how an entitled HOA president learned the hard way that not every door opens just because she demands it, and that calling the police can sometimes backfire spectacularly, particularly when you are the one committing a crime. My name is Adam Scott. I'm a single father and a software engineer. 3 months ago, Ethan and I moved into Maplewood Creek Estates, a gated community that I thought would be peaceful, modern, and safe. The lawns were immaculate, the schools had great ratings, and the HOA rules seemed perfectly reasonable on paper. What I didn't expect was Brenda Maxwell, the woman who treated her volunteer HOA title like she was the mayor, sheriff, and supreme judge of the entire neighborhood, all rolled into one demanding package. From day one, she made it clear she didn't approve of what she dismissively called unsupervised children. The very first time she saw Ethan walking home alone from the school bus stop, she cornered me in the driveway, approaching me as if she were doing me a massive favor. With that sickeningly sweet tone that barely hid a stinging insult, she said perhaps I should consider after-school care. Because according to her, single parents often struggled with providing proper supervision. I told her politely but firmly that Ethan was 12, he was smart, highly independent, and was perfectly safe being home for a couple of hours after school. Furthermore, I worked from home and kept a constant eye on him through our state-of-the-art smart security system. That should have been the end of the conversation. But Brenda was not the type of person who backed down when told no. A week later, she began manufacturing new rules that were not written anywhere in the existing covenants. She claimed the HOA bylaws prohibited any child under 16 from being left alone at home. When I asked to see the specific clause in those bylaws, she simply told me they were being updated by the board and that I would receive a copy. Soon, that copy, of course, was a phantom that never arrived. Over the next few weeks, Brenda's relentless obsession only intensified. Every single afternoon, she would slow roll past our driveway, clearly pretending to adjust her sunglasses or check a street sign. But her eyes were always fixed intensely on our front door. Sometimes she would even park directly across the street, just watching. Ethan started to look distressed, frequently asking me, "Dad, why is the mean lady always spying on me?" This emotional distress caused by her harassment only fueled my determination. Things came to a chilling head one Tuesday in October. I was in the middle of a crucial video conference with clients in San Francisco when my phone buzzed with relentless alerts from our smart home system. Unauthorized key entry attempt. Someone was aggressively trying to unlock our front door repeatedly, but the key was clearly not working. Then came the sound that made my blood run cold. Brenda's high-pitched, shrill voice echoing through the security speakers, ordering Ethan to immediately open the door. My panic subsided into ice-cold focus as I switched to the live feed. There she was, violently jamming a key into the lock, muttering something under her breath about an HOA emergency master key and performing an authorized welfare check. Ethan, bless that amazing kid, stayed completely calm. Just as we had practiced, he pressed the silent panic button that sealed the house and activated every security camera to record in 4K resolution. A second later, my private line rang. "Dad," Ethan said with a steady, brave voice, "that Brenda lady is trying to break in. She says she has a master key, but it's just scratching the lock." "I'm okay," I reassured him. He was doing everything right and spoke directly into the speaker, directed at Brenda. "Brenda, you are trespassing. Leave my property now. If you don't, the police are being called." Instead of retreating, she doubled down on her madness. Her face turned an alarming shade of red, practically glowing like a stoplight, as she pulled out her phone. To my absolute disbelief, she actually dialed 911, putting on her most dramatic, hysterical performance. She told the dispatcher a shocking lie, that there was an abandoned child inside, possibly hurt and she couldn't get in to help. She shamelessly claimed she was performing an official, authorized HOA welfare check and accused me of child neglect. The second she hung up, I called 911 myself, maintaining a calm but urgent tone, explaining that an unauthorized person was attempting forced entry into my home, while my son was safe inside. The dispatcher assured me that officers were already en route due to the initial call. I immediately shut down my meeting, grabbed my keys, and sped home with my heart hammering against my ribs. When I pulled into Maplewood Creek, the flashing lights were already painting the adjacent houses red and blue. Two officers, Officer Davis and Officer Chen, were standing at my porch while Brenda ranting nonstop about HOA, safety rules, and my parental irresponsibility. Inside, Ethan had followed my instructions perfectly. He remained calm and spoke clearly through the video doorbell, telling the officers he was safe, had food, and was just doing his math homework. As I stepped out of my car, Brenda pointed at me dramatically, declaring, "That's him! That's the negligent father who abandoned his child!" Officer Davis gave me a look of pure, cynical disbelief. He quietly asked me to explain the situation. I walked up to the door, pulled out my real house key, and unlocked the deadbolt in one smooth, confident turn, while Brenda's useless master key hung limply from her fingers. Ethan was sitting at the kitchen table, his math textbook neatly spread out, looking astonishingly composed for a 12-year-old, who had just been targeted by an attempted break-in. The officers first checked on Ethan, confirming he was unharmed, had access to food and water, and could reach me instantly. Then I led them to the living room, turned on the large TV, and pulled up the security footage. The room went completely silent as the video played. It showed Brenda marching up to the door, brandishing her key, and forcing it into the lock like she owned the place. The timestamp clearly revealed she'd been physically trying to get inside for nearly 10 minutes before she made her distress call to the police. Officer Chen crossed his arms, his expression hardening. He asked flatly, "Ma'am, where did you legally obtain that key?" Brenda's fake confident smile flickered and died. She stammered something vague about HOA emergency protocols and authorized access for community safety. When pressed fiercely, she had no choice but to admit she had made an unauthorized duplicate copy of a maintenance key during a previous home inspection. The officers exchanged a sharp, meaningful look. Duplication of a homeowner's key without their explicit permission? That wasn't an act of safety. It was clear criminal intent. That's when I produced the file I'd been compiling for weeks. Screenshots of her made-up HOA rules, dated logs of every time she had parked outside to monitor Ethan, and witness statements from neighbors. Mrs. Peterson across the street had even shared her doorbell footage of Brenda sitting in her vehicle for 20 minutes straight. Her eyes locked on my house. Officer Davis's tone hardened with authority. He reminded Brenda that filing a false 911 report about a child being in danger was a severe misuse of emergency services and a serious crime. The more he spoke, the more the arrogant, controlling president seemed to physically shrink under the immense weight of her own lies. Outside, neighbors began to gather, watering plants, checking their mailboxes, clearly watching the entire satisfying scene unfold. A few phones were raised to record. The local gossip train was already boarding. Brenda noticed the audience, too. Her face flushed a painful red, then went sickly pale, as the perceived authority she had desperately clung to for years dissolved, completely in front of her audience. Officer Chen then asked to see the HOA bylaws that granted her the right to enter a private residence home. Brenda faltered, claiming the documents were at her house. Chen cut her off gently but with absolute finality. "Ma'am, no HOA policy overrides state property laws. You cannot legally enter a private home without permission. You are in violation." Then came the words I'll never forget. "Brenda Maxwell, you are officially being cited for attempted unlawful entry and false reporting to emergency services." Her mouth opened in shock, but no sound came out. She sputtered uselessly about her leadership duties and neighborhood safety, but the officers were unmoved. As they wrote up the citations, I calmly informed them, "I will be pressing criminal charges, and my attorney will follow up immediately with a civil suit." The explicit mention of an attorney drained the last vestige of color from her face. The next HOA meeting was legendary. Word had spread through Maplewood Creek faster than any official newsletter. Half the neighborhood showed up, many of whom hadn't attended in years, and the air buzzed with anticipation. I brought my attorney, David Miller, an HOA specialist, with a well-earned reputation for professionally dismantling bullies like Brenda. David laid everything out like a detailed courtroom presentation. Unauthorized key duplication, attempted break-in, false reporting, harassment. It was all meticulously documented, time-stamped, and undeniable. He also called for a full, immediate audit of the HOA's key, control policies to ensure no other homeowners had been compromised by her actions. As David spoke, the other board members shifted uncomfortably. Paul, the treasurer, admitted Brenda had tried to sneak in a motion for mandatory welfare checks without any proper board approval. Lisa, the secretary, produced the minutes showing the board had explicitly voted against, granting her entry authority. One by one, they all completely distanced themselves from her. When the vote of no confidence came up, the result was a satisfying, unanimous vote. Even Brenda's usual allies could not defend her now. The room erupted in murmurs as Brenda shot to her feet, her chair screeching across the tiled floor. "You'll all regret this," she screamed, her voice cracking with fury and defeat. "This neighborhood will fall apart without me." Then she stormed out, her high heels striking the floor like a defeated, retreating drumbeat. But the consequences did not end there. The false reporting charge carried a crippling fine.